I have a question. You mentioned the 10th Amendment and the possibility that states might issue currency. Is there any history of that, and is there any
Well, state
legal?
banks, states charter, they're state banks, and all banks create currency. That's where all their money comes from. So, but normally you create the money in response to somebody borrowing it, and then, it gets paid back. But you could have, the states are in charge of whatever, how they set up their system, and it seems to me that they could arguably authorize state banks to create a fund that would just create money. It would go into bridges and roads, and many of those things would be self-sustaining. You could create things that would pay money back, so it would in effect be a loan to
Well,
the.
I'm troubled by this one aspect of this discussion, and that is that it places power in the hands of either Congress or some agency in the executive branch to assume roles that are now being conducted by the Federal Reserve Board. So to establish whole new, economic processes. I rate the Congress, like most Americans, their approval rating is like 10 or 15% now. I wouldn't trust the Congress. I'd rather stay with the Federal Reserve Board, frankly, for my money.
Well, I feel is that nobody trusts Congress because they're totally in the hands of the big banks. They can't really make their own decisions. They can't make the decisions that their people want or that they probably want to do. I was actually encouraged listening to those Bear Stearns hearings. The people asking questions, the congressmen asking questions, were very penetrating, very suspicious. It seems to me that if Congress did not have to cater to those big lobbyists, we might have a real Congress.
What I think that Congress is going to do is they're going to go around with a hammer and smash some people who are behaving in unhelpful ways on Wall Street, rather like they did with Enron. They just let companies go out of business, put some people in jail, fix things around, fix the a feud. In other words, they're gonna say this is bad apples. And while they're doing this distraction, this public circus, then they're going to go out and they're going to dump money into the channels that they want to flourish, and they're going to allow some other ones to wither on the vine, just as they do from time to time.
Well, but that's what they do anyway. But they do it with when they want money, they just issue more bonds and putting us in debt, and we have to pay interest on that. So why not let them just? They're going to be issuing little paper things anyway. Why not let them, instead of issuing these bonds on which interest is owed, if different, let them issue money. Plus, the Federal Reserve itself is acting in the interest of the banks, and you can see that more and more lately. It's just so obvious that what they're doing is
But then,
not
for
serving us.
I'd be able to go to the bank and borrow. I'd be able to go and borrow regardless of my creditworthiness, and just because I'm a citizen.
Well, I would think you could do it just like they do with credit cards now. You start out with the 19-year-olds, with $1,000, and if they pay it back, then you say, well, your credit rating is now gone up to, or your credit limit is gone up to
I think that's a great idea that the federal government should just give everybody a $10,000 allowance. You don't have to.
Yeah, well, that's the national dividend idea.
Yeah, it's kind of what you're doing. But you have another motive. You want to get in there and
No,
take
but I'm
away
talking about lending money. In other words, all you're doing is materializing your dreams. You're saying, I believe I want to put my labor into something, but I don't have any money. So if I can just borrow that, I'll pay you back in X amount of time, just like we do now, but we get it from banks.
I would add to this, well, why does it need to be paid back? Why couldn't the credits be used to make productive assets? And then, okay, we now have these productive assets, and for as long as that capital is used, then the return will go to the government, which is a form of taxation. And if you, for as long as you, in other words, I call that concept open capital. For as long as you use it, you pay a return to the provider of interest. Well, a return, but
There's a
it's paid
30%.
but hang on. The problem with interest is that it's a risk reward, right? What we're talking about here is a proportion of the output. So, it all depends what you produce. If you produce a lot, then they'll get 1% of a lot. If you produce next to nothing, they'll get 1%.
Well, there's nothing stopping anyone from doing that today. Are you suggesting that it should be mandatory?
I'm saying it should be a form of equity, not debt. I'm saying it needn't be repaired.
But people can do that any time. We don't need the government over there.
True. Yeah, but where does the credit come from to make it happen? Where does the purchasing power come? I mean, the thing, if all you have, this is why credit unions, existing money gets lent out again. Is what most people think, that banks take in deposits and lend them out again. If that were the case, no new development would ever take place, because no new money is there. It's just existing. So obviously somebody has to create that credit. And I think we all agree that the source of that credit is the individual, not the bank.
People paying back their loans would provide money for new loans.
Well,
you said that if there was new money being created, then there would never be any growth. So, right?
no, but you see, what you say, if people pay back their loans, that isn't increasing the amount of money in circulation, is it? You're talking about the same amount of money in circulation.
But it doesn't. You don't need to have increasing amounts of money in circulation in order to have an economy in which 20% of the money in circulation flows into investment in fixed assets.
Well,
If you increase productivity, you're going to have to increase the amount of money. Either that or you're going to have to drop your prices, which never has worked historically.
it's back to this distinction between credit on the one hand and investment on the other. And if you only look at credit, which is maybe a small amount of value, the value in circulation, the vast amount of value that exists is in fact tied up, in a sense, sunk in productive assets, which do produce something with a value in exchange. So, I say land rentals have a value in exchange. Energy has a value in exchange. My time has a value in exchange. And my time has been made valuable by investment in me. Now, I would advocate everybody having an account, which the government...
You'll just self-limit on that same thing that you've said in every workshop.
Yeah.
So don't use too much of your time.
No, okay. This is Ellen's workshop.
We've had 3 other workshops.
Thanks for that reminder, Tom.
Well, I can see where the industry is created by money that goes to the government for productive things like roads, bridges. That could be interest free, or it's just a grant of money, but then the income from those things would go back to the government. So you don't necessarily call that interest, but it would be investment in a productive thing that could arguably pay back more than it costs. Like, for instance, low-income housing. You would create the money to make the low-income housing, and then that would pay the government over time.
Yeah.
So that could definitely be, that could definitely be interest-free. But then the question is, for loans to individuals, do you want that to be interest-free? I mean, they're not going to return their profits to the government. So that's their business, and they'll get to keep the profits. But it could be interest-free, just like when you use a credit card, it's interest-free up for the first month. It could be the same thing, where you're monetizing your own promise to repay, which is what all money is. And then you just have to set up how long of a time period can you repay it in if it's interest-free, and what can you